Well, joining us now from Tel Aviv is Neri Zilber, an Israeli affairs analyst and an adjunct fellow at the Washington Institute. Neri, thank you for your time. Before we get into possible reactions here, talk us through what was voted on in this first reading. What are these key components?
So last night, as you mentioned, there was one key component of this overarching judicial, quote unquote, reform or overhaul package that the Netanyahu government wants to pass. And really, it was the first reading of a bill that would allow Parliament to override Supreme Court decisions with just a simple majority in the Knesset, 61 votes out of 120. So that was one bill that was passed last night. Also worth mentioning that there was another bill passed last night, essentially eliminating the Supreme Court or other legal bodies here in Israel's ability to declare a prime minister incapacitated or unfit to continue serving. That has been a key component or demand from parts of Netanyahu's Likud party to perhaps forestall the possibility of the Supreme Court or the Attorney General here actually declaring Netanyahu unfit or incapacitated, precisely due to his plans to overhaul the judicial system here. So those were two bills that were passed late last night.
So what has the reaction been and what is expected? Would you anticipate more protests?
Yes, most definitely. So the protest movement declared this coming Thursday another day of weekday strikes and public demonstrations, a day of intensifying resistance, as they called it. And this has now gone on for 3 straight weeks, on top of 10 straight weeks of overall demonstrations, hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets. And last night's events in Parliament, on top of last week's events in Parliament, where other bills also passed their first reading, only fan the flames of the public protest here, and also are a key indication, perhaps, that Netanyahu himself and his government have no intention of backing down, that they're moving full steam ahead with this judicial overhaul, despite the pleas of the majority of their citizens and despite really objective reality in terms of the state of the country right now.
With that in mind, considering that there will be more protests, is there any indication that this reform can or will be stopped?
Well, until these bills are passed in second and third readings, there's always hope. There's always hope that Netanyahu himself actually decides to do the right thing and takes a step back and at least halts this legislative blitz and enters into good faith negotiations with the opposition and with the protest movement, pretty much stopping this train hurtling off the tracks. But we should mention, this is all being planned to happen in the next week or two before the Knesset leaves for spring break. And so the timeline here is very, very short, and we'll know, I imagine, in the next week or two whether Israel is heading full on into a constitutional crisis or whether cooler heads prevail, starting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, who should perhaps take a step back and reassess this major domestic crisis in Israel.
Interesting analysis. Neri Zilber, thank you for that live out of Tel Aviv.